Hello, welcome to a very special edition of No Face Cuts. This is Corey McCarthy. I'm back, and I'm back on the Zoom. Today, we have two amazing guests, two young entrepreneurs in the age of COVID. We have two amazing people, young people who are doing it, and who could possibly help with the COVID journey for some of your children, some of our children, who could possibly help students, who could possibly help, because there is a need for help right now. There's a need for help. I am beyond worried about the mental health of our athletes, our children, college students as well. I'm worried. I think that we are missing an opportunity to rebuild our students, to redevelop our students. We are missing opportunity to allow them to be great and escape the pandemic better than they were when they first came in. But we're not doing it. It's not something that we're doing. And we have to truly look at how we are using sports to avoid doing great things by kids. Now, what does that mean? I think by adults whining about COVID and whining about sports and how it's going to affect kids, I actually think you're lying. I actually think you're talking about how it's going to affect you, right? I actually think you're talking about how it's going to affect you. We understand the gaping hole without that kids are experiencing without sports. But all it's doing is exposing the money garb that it is for basketball, football. Because if you cared, you would be helping kids pick up and develop new skills. You'd be hosting Zooms and reading with them. You'd be showing them the world. You'll be watching TED Talks with them. You'll be helping them uncover and discover great things about themselves. You'll be talking to them about college and how this world is so much bigger than basketball, football, hockey, baseball. Instead, all you do is set them up for a loss as COVID hands down one disappointment after one disappointment after one disappointment after the other. And you're blaming it on a disease. Instead of taking some responsibility and saying, hey, we're shifting. This world is crumbling. People aren't getting along. Instead, we set them up for a loss. Right? We set our kids up for a loss. By every time we say, hey, we can't practice. Pay your money, but we'll give you got to travel to do this tournament. Try to find ways to justify kids not doing things. You set kids up for loss. Kids cannot handle loss because we have programmed them that way. We got to elevate students, young people. We got to make them see what success looks like when the ball isn't bouncing. So what y'all are doing is doing what a lot of people will do when your best prospect turns 29 and can't bounce the basketball anymore? Where are you when that kid who went on to play pro basketball or semi-pro or was great in college, where are you when that ball starts bouncing? What is their plan? The pandemic has given us a head start. After this, we should get, instead of more disappointed kids, that's all we're getting. We should get more lawyers, more doctors, more teachers, more nurses. We should help people. We should help kids learn to appreciate true essential workers and build empathy. If you think I'm a normal walking man, you think I don't feel, you think I'm okay with people with disabilities right now? People with no coverage? You think I'm okay with that? We are missing an opportunity to develop and build a normal, human, caring, love, and honest, enticing society. And kids are suffering from depression, isolation, anxiety. They're getting pulled every which way with educational decision making, school districts letting them down. Everybody got something to say, but they refuse to go all in on something. So that's what we have to go all in on students, all in on young people. And I only mentioned basketball once or twice. But we have done a poor job and we've created a dependency on something that may only last for 4 years of high school, 4 years of college. What are we doing? The CDC last month, they came out and said on disproportionate levels, young people between 18 and 24, out of them, those people they polled, 58% of them have contemplated suicide since the pandemic. Are you listening to me? %58 of the college students that they polled they could either very concerned, worried, or extremely concerned about their mental health. Young people. Now, I was wrong about the contemplated suicide. That's actually 1/4 of that group, not 58%. The 58% is of college students who are worried about their mental health. So what can we do? What can we do? How can we do it? What can we do to help? Well, the first thing you should do is to talk about, help students understand the world by talking about terminology, defining the world to them. Talking, what is politics? What is politics? What is freedom? What is the distinction between institutional racism, systemic racism, and what are the layers of privilege? And how does privilege marginalize basketball players? It does. Every year for the past 5 years, the average income, the NBA players are going to the NBA. There's no knocking their families for being middle class. There's no knocking their families for being rich. Because I know in the 90s, there were a lot of come from nothing type NBA players. 2010s even come from nothing NBA players going into the league, going into college. They already had theirs. Oh, you think Steph Curry grew up on Blue Hill Ave? Come on, fam. We're pricing kids out of the game. Paying for a trainer. Paying for knowledge. A price to pay for being talented. Monopolized by a handler. Everything costs now. But at what cost? At what cost? We got to look at how we are getting results from this pandemic. What are the most valuable outcomes from the pandemic? I've seen it. I've seen celebrities connect with people on a heavy level, bring a lot of depth to the table. I've seen people go on Zooms and who haven't seen their friends in a long time get on and cry. I know kids that meet every day on Zoom for lunch. We are lacking in identity, we are lacking in confidence, and we are lacking in people skills when it comes to young people. So as I look and I talk about building some capacity and supporting students and scholars and young people between 14 and 24 with their mental health throughout a pandemic, I thought about two folks came to mind that really took control of their personal destiny. Obviously, they had to work for it, and they've really had some serious come up stories. One particular was my former student. So I seen her when she was younger and didn't know what she wanted to do, and now she knows what she want to do. And this gentleman, he just learned from the best, and he tailored his skill set to make it happen. And so I'm gonna let them introduce themselves, and then we'll go a quick Q&A, and hopefully you guys would understand why it's so valuable to take control of your lives and why we should be pushing kids towards careers and using and leveraging this pandemic to really escape a lot better than it started. So the first I'm gonna start off with by introducing April Watkins. April, welcome, and tell us really quick about you and what you do.
Yeah, so my name is April. I'm originally from Boston, been knowing Corey for years. Started as my basketball coach, and just really from the ground up, just teaching me how to just push hard and put your best foot forward every day. I currently live in Atlanta, Georgia, and I work at Google full-time by day, and by night I run my own business called BookedBag, which is a series of book protectors. They're cute, stylish, with the end goal of making reading fun and cool again.
Where'd you go to school, girl?
Sorry, I went to school at Bentley University in Waltham. Graduated the class of 2012. Yeah, so I stayed in Boston for a year after school, and then moved to Atlanta and got my start at a startup, working a lot in the news publishing industry, coaching journalists how to post videos with their story content. So I work with Hearst newspapers, magazines, Interactive One, any kind of major newspaper brand, Cox Communications, I worked with them as well. And again, just starting in video, and then kind of branching off and going directly to newspapers. So working at the AJC and kind of helping them through the digital transition of moving from just print newspaper to digital media, and really selling all things in terms of like Facebook, search, programmatic, display, any kind of advertising. So advertising is definitely where I got my start.
and Mr. Kerwin Rent out of Elite Gaming Live. Another game changer. Tell us about you and your business.
Yes, sir. So my name's Kerwin Wren. I'm the founder of Elite Gaming Live. I'll go into my background first. So I've got a background in technology. I've been a desktop engineer, network engineer for a handful of Fortune 50 to 100 companies. And while I was in those positions, I saw tons of positions not get filled, dozens of interviews, and then down the line, they would just remove the position because kids weren't really they weren't skilled for those jobs, or not kids, but adults weren't skilled for those jobs. They weren't prepared. So EGL is actually a solution to that problem for schools, or I'm sorry, for employers, because we pipeline kids directly into career outcomes. And our esports league, which is for grades 3 through 12, we have a dual focus of the gaming, which is very important because you've got social emotional learning, things like that are super hot keywords in education that travel with you down the line through your life. But we also have a dual focus in STEM education, because we know that social emotional learning and things like that cannot translate directly, or usually do not translate directly, to tangible and gainful employment. So we know there's tons of kids playing video games. We know that making a video game is extremely difficult. We know there's all sorts of other media that's extremely difficult to make. And these people make a lot of money making all this media. So we take that interest in gaming and we tweak it just a little bit to say, hey, here's all this other stuff other than picking up a controller. Do you like any of it? Does any of it speak to you? And then kids, over the course of the season, they tell us, without telling us, they tell us what they're interested in. And then we share that information with all the adults in their environment, so that every adult in their environment can support them more efficiently. So we're the responsible esports league in the market, because we will never value the competition over the future of the kids. So
Well, to see two young Black intellectuals like you guys, who put your brains behind your beliefs, it's all, to some people, you guys have weaponized your intelligence, which is crazy to me, because usually you're seen as being dangerous or confrontational or whatever, but now you have entered officially, what I say, has officially entered the game, right? And many kids, they don't understand what it's like to be in the game and how difficult it could be for us. So you guys have independently made major steps towards doing that. So my first question would be to you, Kerwin. What really inspired you to really add this component? You could have taken off with the video gaming thing and have enough kids. But what really inspired you to really take off with Elite Gaming Live?
I'd honestly say, after working with the first few hundred kids and like having conversations with their parents and like also their school leaders, and like seeing how confident and rambunctious these kids were, it's crazy, because it's like kids, not just minority kids, but kids in general have this confidence inside of them. Gamers do, but they don't have the tools and the platform and the foundation to feel like that, to feel like that's how they should be outwardly. It's like sports kids get that as soon as we get into that bubble. It's like, man, this is great, right? And everyone around us is like, we're in this mode and it feels good. But like, gamers subdue their confidence and their self-esteem so long, usually, that when it's time to actually show it, it's not natural for them. So honestly, seeing the kids and working with the kids and talking to their parents and starting and learning how this is not really translating very well at home and in social experiences, it was like, gaming is going to be this thing that's going to continue to grow. I mean, Fitbit is literally gaming, right? Adults are gaming and we don't even know it. But it's going to be here, and either we're going to take advantage of it in the wrong way, or we're going to take advantage of it in the right way. So once I realized that these kids would practically do anything that we put in front of them to be successful in the competition, I was like, well, the only responsible thing to do is to put some very, very deliberate education in front of them and say, listen, if you want to be successful in EGL, you kind of have to do this stuff too. And I mean, to me, it's like the only responsible way to do it, because they're never going to stop playing video games. Kids are going to be playing forever. So
Absolute fact. And, you know, you can take my line if you want, brother, but Nike, the funny thing is with Nike and Jordans, are people of color mainly who really fund that market. They will always be the buyer. I think what makes your situation unique is that eventually you're putting young people in a position to be the buyer, the player, and the owner. And that's real elite stuff. And so kudos to you for that. And I'm going to shift over to Miss Watkins. And she, as a young Black woman, you know, when she was younger, she made you feel like she was listening to you, but she always had her own way of doing things. And I've always admired that about her. You know, I think she was just one of the people I knew that will always figure it out. So, but she understands what the burden is on Black women in this country. I'll be honest with you, it's heavy, right? And you got to be twice as fast. You got to be twice as intelligent in a sense, and you got to lead a little differently. So by feeling that burden and having that burden be always present in everything you do in terms of being judged, what really inspired you to say, hey, you know what, I'm just not okay with working at Google. I want to have my own business.
Yeah. And I think for me, it started, the stories are kind of similar. We saw a need, right? So I'll give you a little background on how BookedBag got started. Started in a book club at work with coworkers. And I borrowed one of my coworkers' books, and I was taking the train to and from work at the time. And so I had a tote bag, and I would have my lunch in there. And so one day, like, my water bottle sweated, my yogurt burst. And so her book was essentially destroyed. And so I'm like, all right, either I can't give her back this book this way. I'm going to need to buy her a new one. And so I'm like, okay, let me go look for a book protector, something I can put, you know, a book in to protect it. And I could not find what I was looking for. Most of the traditional book covers are like kind of flimsy, and they just protect the front and back covers, leaving the pages to be exposed. And so I definitely immediately thought, okay, need something with full coverage. And then I did find some of the more so Bible book covers, but they were like bulky and they were ugly. So in terms of what I had in my head, I couldn't find it. And so I was like, okay, why don't I create it? So BookedBag actually started as a solution for me, so that my books can stay protected. But then I thought, like, why not? There's other readers out there. Like, let's just, you know, test this and see what happens. So we launched with 2 colors and sold out just within friends and family within a week. And so that told me that there's a need, and people do like this. We even had repeat buyers. I'm like, oh, maybe somebody's just going to buy one, but they actually came back and bought more. And so it essentially started with a need. And then, as you mentioned earlier, I kind of pride myself on executional excellence. I get it done. You know, I hear what you're saying, and in my head, I start, you know, churning, like, how can we solve this? It's one thing to have a problem and just, you know, kind of talk about and complain about more and more about the problem, but I'm very solution oriented. Like, what's the solution? We can sit here and talk about, you know, the problem all day, but how do we fix it? And what are actionable steps that we can take to address this issue? So, but yeah, so it definitely started with the need, and then it's just, you know, on top of all of that, being a Black woman at Google, you know, itself, it's, you know, a lot of times I'm the only one in the room. I'm, you know, I'm in advertising, so I'm speaking to large advertisers, you know, predominantly ran, you know, white males. And being, you know, at first it was this thing of impersonative syndrome, like, okay, how did I get here? This little girl from Boston, you know, I'm not supposed to be here. And so it did take a lot of, like, you know, I strongly believe my faith has been number one. That's helped me kind of come to grips with, like, you know, you got this, you deserve to be here. And so act like it. And now that I'm finding the more that I act like it and actually, you know, do things, I get more of the, like, oh, wow, like, this is great, you know, versus me just being a quiet one in the room. Because, you know, it's in you and you have it. And there is, you know, this need as a Black woman to always feel like you have to work twice as hard. And so a newer thing that I adopted too is working from my energy. There are some days it hits 2 o'clock and I can't finish the day. I stop, because when I keep going, my work doesn't come out as it should. And so, you know, there are days I wake up and I'm like, I can do everything I put my mind to. And so working from my energy has also helped me come to grips with, you know, all the challenges faced.
Wow.
That's
Yo,
awesome.
y'all are exceeding my expectations. And it's great for when young folks do that. It just makes me feel like I could I inspired to go 20 more years of trying to advocate for young kids, and y'all ain't young kids, but for the youth, but like to see it develop that way. And I want people to understand, like, this is not like I'm going to have a little something around the way. This is Google, and this is Elite Gaming Live. Like, this is not like, this is hard work. And what do you think it took for you guys personally, this for both of you guys? Like, what does it take for the 14-year-old kid that's going to be watching, young Black woman that's going to be watching April Watkins? What is it going to take for that same girl to look at Kerwin Rent and be like, hey, I want to be my own, I want to take my ideas, learn from everybody else, and create something for myself? What does it take? What does it take? And Kerwin, actually, April, I'll go with you first on that. What does it take?
Yeah, I mean, a part of it, you can't put all of it on that 14-year-old, right? So it starts with the environment. It's creating that environment where they feel like I can ask for help and not feel stupid. Or, I have this idea. I think what you was mentioning earlier, these kids get on, especially in sports, get on this track of like, I'm going to play ball, I'm going to play ball. And, they think of anything else and it's like, no, you need to focus everything about, no, what is it that you want to do? They're even breaking down the education system now. Who knows where, colleges and universities will be years from now, because they could also start a business, just creating that environment where you can do anything. My favorite quote is, the sky is not the limit. And so just pushing that on these kids, and just giving them that confidence that they need at that age to feel like they can truly do anything that they put their mind to.
And Kerwin, before you answer, what you're doing is that you're putting it in the hands of the kids in middle school, elementary school.
Yep.
So talk about that, and talk about how that sort of trajectory is going to take land kids potentially into a job situation.
Yeah.
Because quite frankly, college ain't for everybody.
Right. Agreed. So first thing, I'm gonna piggyback off what she said, is all about environment. To me, it's all about environment. I think kids in general have everything they need to do whatever they want to do. I mean, every type of kid, any type of kid, you have everything you need. You just need to be in the right environment. And I also think that if you do something long enough and you're deliberate about it, so if I'm 14 or if I'm 10 and I have something that I truly want to do and I'll do it enough, over time, you will figure out how to make it work for you for what you need from it. You just can't stop doing it. You have to be focused, and you have to do it over a period of time. It could be a year, it could be 10 years, but if you do it long enough, you will figure out how to make that thing work for what you need it for, right? But going into EGL, it's super important because some of these tech jobs, some of these jobs out here they're not for everyone. And parents and adults, you can't ask the right questions directly to kids because kids are not equipped to answer them. So STEM is the perfect example. STEM is 1,000 different things. So if you ask a kid what excites you most about STEM, they really can't answer that question because to them, they're in school for 6-7 hours a day. STEM is math, science, English, so it's literally blends in with everything else. You're not going to excite me with it because I can't relate to that, and school's boring in general, right? So finding a way to ask kids these very important questions in their language that's what adults have been doing wrong for a long time. That's why there's a lot of sports kids who don't want to play sports. They want to do something else. There's a lot of kids who I played the clarinet, right? And I wanted to play the saxophone, but I played the clarinet, and the whole time I was like, this is cool, but like, I don't want to be doing this, right? I want to do something completely different. So you have to find a way to ask these kids these hard questions as early as possible. So if you can ask a kid in 5th grade, what do you love about STEM? And you can find a way to empower that kid to answer that question in an intricate way or in a powerful way, then you just erased, let's say, 8 to 10 years of them not really knowing what they wanted to do with their future, or going to college and spending 2 years kind of floating and taking different electives. You literally just cut out all of that. And now that kid can say, I want to do this. I also kind of like this, but I mean, that's what's important. And that's why we start so early. You got to ask these kids these questions and speak their language. So EGL makes our curriculum as relatable as possible. So AI, right? What is AI to a 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade? They don't even really know what that is. What's cloud computing? They have no idea what it is. Most adults don't know what cloud computing is, right? So how do you ask those questions or introduce these things to these kids in their language? So what's AI to Mario Kart? What's AI to Mario Kart, right? So what's cloud computing? What's Instagram run on? Kids don't know that it runs on cloud computing. So you make these connections and you put these connections in their language, and their wheels start turning naturally. And then all of a sudden they're asking you questions for more information. And they're like, man, this is great. So what about this? What about that? You just got to put them in the right environment and speak their language. And then adults can kind of like rest easy, because right now we're all trying to figure out, what are we going to do with all these gamers, all these kids that are like in their phone for 5 hours a day? Well, you have to take that interest and you got to like peak it just a little bit and tweak it until the kid starts getting curious themselves. So
and that's, y'all are dope. I don't be throwing compliments around like that either. But anyway, I think for you, April, you know, I think when I first got the book, your product, I was like, I can't believe this kid is doing this. But on top of that, like I wasn't trying to read anything until I put it on my book. So like you've invigorated reading. You've normalized. We need people to just normalize things that we are capable of doing. But there's so many things that hurt what our kids could do, and our kids are suffering for it. And I think that's why I think like reading and getting some productivity from gaming could help kids escape the pandemic better than they were when they first went in. I believe that they have an opportunity to be great through the avenues that you took and what you guys are providing. And you guys are providing great avenues for success, great opportunity for kids to do this by themselves as young entrepreneurs. And most importantly, it's inspiring, man. It's inspiring to kids. So, and I know we got a hard stop, but I want you to really, talk about and have that message to your younger self by way of talking to my audience, which will be eventually some younger kids, as you close out. April.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, just, not feeling that you can't, right? It's changing that mind work is that you can. And we have Google now, like you can search anything, and all it takes is one step to get started, or one person who's in a related field, or talk to Corey and just be like, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. Can you help me? Corey knows people. He could link people to, or just get you connected some kind of way. And yeah, just, it, even when you think about reading, I run into, I have challenging days too. I used to do a lot of, activations on site where like I'm trying to sell my book bag to people and they'll pass the table just like, whatever, like I don't need that. But then you'll get that one or two person who comes to the table like, oh my gosh, I need this. This is the best invention ever. And so that person is what gives me hope. I don't pay attention to the people who walk by because it's not for them at this moment. It's niche for people who want to actually spend money to protect their books. And so you can't, you stay positive, just, keep your head up and, reach out for those resources, and whether they're people, information, books, whatever it is, just, take that first step, whatever it is you want to do, just, take that first step. That's all I can say. I wish I could tell myself that before, because it was, I was stuck on the nose and like, I can't, or I couldn't because I'm from here. I live here.
But I know you took a lot of steps, and you can't get anywhere without taking a step. So before you head out, drop an alchemist quote for me. You know what I'm talking about.
Alchemist. Oh,
that's a good book. That's a good book.
My favorite book. That is my favorite book. What is one of my favorite parts? So, I mean, I don't mean to get spiritual here, but I do believe,
Why can't you?
I don't know anybody
when they had black folks, when they had black folks all tied up before, we had to
Right.
we had to get spiritual to get out in the fields.
Right. So I'll just say I'm going to paraphrase this quote, but follow the omens that God has left for you. Right. And so I think back to my experience, and, when you're in it, you're just like, why is this happening? But when you look back, you can literally see why I was supposed to be there at that time. When I tell you I dated somebody just so I could get the job at Google, I was not looking at Google, nothing of that. And so I just went through this terrible relationship, but then I left and I was like, oh, okay, if that didn't happen and that didn't happen, then I wouldn't be here. So it's like but it's always that look back where you realize it. So now, like, as I progress in my life, just being open to all those signs and stuff that you see. If an idea pops in your head, write it down. It wasn't given to you for no purpose. Like, talk to somebody, whatever it is, like, just follow those omens. Whatever, if an opportunity presents itself, follow it. Like, just see what happens, even though it's something you traditionally wouldn't do. Just see what happens, because even if that necessarily doesn't work out, in a way, it can open a door to something else that you just could have never thought could be a possibility. And so I will leave with that quote, like, follow the omens that God has left for you. Just keep your eyes open, and your heart open to any opportunities or people that are placed in your life, whether good, bad, and just look to see the good in the situation.
All right, I know you got to go, April, and I'll follow up that same very question with Mr. Rent. Ms. Watkins, thank you for joining us. I'm proud of you. I'm so proud of you. Know it, and I can't believe I'm saying it, because we had so many wars over what you wanted to do with your life, and you just took control of it. And I'm proud of you.
Oh, thanks, Corey. All right, I see you guys.
Mr. Rent, so going back into EGL, talk to me about how you came up with the trajectory of going from elementary. How could EGL help a student from elementary to middle school to high school?
Sure. So the way our curriculum set up is it's broken down in 3 student groups. So you got 3 through 5, 6 through 8, 9 through 12. So technically, if you start in EGL in 3rd grade, you could learn new things and build on your knowledge around certain careers all the way through. And the objective here is, at some point, I mean, if you're in 3rd or 4th grade, it might be loose learning because you're still like a young kid, but at some point, you as a kid yourself is going to identify, man, I actually am interested in this. And you're going to be able to tell the adults around you that you're interested in. You're going to be able to articulate why you're interested in it. But no, it's important, because even if you start in 3rd grade, there are opportunities for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders all over the U.S. to do job shadowing things at Fortune 500 companies. There's so many things that young kids can actually do in the summer during fall break for school to bring them closer to what they're interested in. So it's like you start early, because the earlier they identify what they're interested in, the better. And then also, just to kind of, again, piggyback off what she said, it's all about being you. You're going to find what you're interested in way faster if you're you. And that goes back to why I started EGL, because we weren't us. Yeah. Our gamers, we used to put our Game Boys under the table at lunch so no one could see us playing them. And it's like, why do we do that? We're suppressing a part of who we are. And that actually does have a long-term impact on our lives. And as kids, we don't really know it. And our parents aren't at school with us. So of course your mom is going to encourage you to be you at all times. Your dad's going to do the same thing, but they're not at school with you. So they can't really see you suppressing who you are. So You're in this thing by yourself. So, I mean, again, that goes back to why I started EGL. These kids have everything they need. Certain kids are in different environments that don't really support positivity, or that don't really support opportunity. But it's like, at the end of the day, every kid has what they need. Be yourself, commit to something, find out what you're interested in, and just focus. And if you do it long enough, you'll get exactly what you want from it. If you want to be a millionaire, if you do something long enough, you can become a millionaire. You just got to do something and never stop, stay focused, and yeah, and just hone in on that thing. So no, we want our kids to have a resume of learning by the time they are 2-3 years into the program. We want them to be able to show, this is what I've learned over the last 3 years, to show what I'm interested in, or to show like what I'm excited about. And then employers, people with opportunities can see that stuff and say, man, like these are the same type of kids or the same type of people that 5 years from now we're going to need for our business. Or
With a link to employment. There's a link to employment with EGL as well.
Absolutely. There's a link to employment. So one of the links to employment that we've got right now is with Amazon AWS Educate. We work with them on a lesson set around cloud engineering, which is, again, something that no one truly knows what that is, but it's a real thing.
I never heard of it until you told me about it. I started looking it up. I was like, can we get some of these underserved kids in there?
Yeah. No, so cloud engineering is a very specialized career. It's not extremely hard to get into, but nobody really knows that these jobs exist. Parents, especially, who are working full-time jobs, they don't know. They can't get their kids excited about something that they have no idea exists either. So we work with Amazon. We created a lesson set so kids could complete it, learn all about cloud engineering, make a decision internally and say, man, does this sound interesting to me or does it not? If the kids who it is interesting to, they then go on to Amazon's platform. And if they complete work there, they go directly on the Amazon job board. So, which means that they can be potentially hired by not just Amazon, but also other organizations and corporations that get access to that job board too. So EGL Academy has a very powerful and much larger vision. Of course, a third grader, that outcome is way down the line for a third grader, but it's all about getting kids to get as close as possible to an outcome so that they can make a decision as quickly as possible and say out loud, I'm interested in this, and know why they're interested in it. Because if you know why and you can speak to that, then that'll follow you and you'll be able to focus on that. So yeah, absolutely.
Damn, that stuff. That's tough. I wish I was in 5th grade.
Me too.
What are some of the games on EGL?
So we do Madden, NBA 2K, FIFA. We do Mario Kart, Rocket League, Smash Bros. We want.
Oh, it used to be 4. Now it's 8.
Well, no. So yeah, so there's every season we mix up the games and we'll add like auxiliary games because kids will vote and kids will tell us kind of what they want to play on top of what they're already playing. So we try to be flexible with the games and with some of the stuff that we put onto the platform, for sure.
Let me tell y'all how well thought out this is. You get 50 kids from every school. They compete against each other by playing the games they love. They also get an academic component. And with the trajectory of that, if they stick with it, they could make some money. Then they take the top 8 and they compete nationally. Right? And in the long run, there's some scholarship potential.
Cash.
Some outcomes.
Yep.
What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? Folks, you are listening to this show, No Face Cuts, with my man Kerwin right now from EGL, and he is giving us an opportunity to break from community and build a larger one.
Yep.
So I want, before we close, I want you to brag about EGL really quick. Website, wherever we could find out, whatever you want to drop, brag about yourself, man. You deserve it.
All right, cool. So real quick, you can go to EliteGamingLive.com and you can sign up there as an organization, which is school. We don't just do schools. We do libraries, parks and rec centers. If you're a foster care home, we could even serve foster care homes. If you're a juvenile center, we could even serve juvenile centers. Anywhere where there's a concentration of K through 12 kids, we can help. And we're ready to help, and we're excited, and we know how to foster impact, and we know how to educate these kids in their language. So yeah, if you want to make an impact in your organization, go to EliteGamingLive.com, fill out the form. You will hear from us very quickly. Also, if you're an individual parent and you want your son or daughter to sign up for EGL individually, you can do that as well. Think AAU for esports. So we can put your son or daughter on an EGL team, and then they'll get a schedule to compete, and they'll have access to EGL Academy, all of the rewards like cash and scholarships, everything we provide. If you sign up individually, your son or daughter will have access to that as well. So no, I totally agree, Corey. Like, there are ways to start kind of breaking these barriers that are in some of our neighborhoods and in some of our communities. And it's like, we just have to dig in, and we have to give access to these kids for them to find their way. And so we're happy to do that.
I get our hands dirty, man. At the end of every day, my nails are filthy.
That's what it is, man. So super excited. And yeah, we're trying to foster as much impact as possible. So
they're in the rural areas, they're in the suburbs, yep. They're in the cities. Now they're in the hood. So we got EGL got it all covered. I want to thank you for joining us. Of course, we'll speak soon, because my home base, we're joining EGL, so our kids can compete, be engaged, and hopefully lead to a career in STEM. So I want to thank you, Mr. Rent, for joining us for this edition of No Face Cuts. Of course, I'll be in contact to let you know when the episode's dropping real soon, real soon. So make sure you check them out, elitegaminglive.com. Did I get that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So and if you're really deep into it, and when he's on TV talking about EGL, we got to line up some internships. So holla at me. Thank you, Mr. Rent. You have a good one, brother.
Thanks. I appreciate it, man. This was great. Thanks for having me.
All right. Talk soon.
All right. Yep.
I want white people, I want Black people, I want any Asian, Latinx, every demographic to understand that on No Face Cuts, we found a way out. All your kids are at home playing video games during the pandemic. And what EGL is saying is, like, stop being the buyer. Put that basketball down for a little bit, right? And let's get this 40-year plan going. Put that hockey stick down. It's too expensive right now. We're in a pandemic. I love basketball. I love sports. But I am not a true educator if I'm going to put my desire to coach or play or to synthetically profit from the efforts of kids without responding with opportunities. If you need to know more about EGL, holler at me. My email, Coach Corey McCarthy, no E in Corey, @gmail.com. nofacecuts@gmail.com. You can find me on Twitter @the_Corey_McCarthy. I believe that's it. I'm not hard to find. The book bag, April Watkins, EGL, EliteGamingLive.com. We're not out here selling nonsense. We're gonna sell education. We're gonna sell community, and we're gonna beat this thing together. I'm out of here.